to be filmed and to the use of those images and sound recordings. Can I please request that when councillors and members of the public are speaking, not to disclose any personal information of an individual, as this might infringe the rights of that individual and breach data protection rules. This is a formal town council meeting and will be held using the agenda as published. Members of the public will be given the opportunity to speak during public open sessions, but will not be permitted to speak at other times. And when you're not speaking, will you please mute your microphone, because this will help to eliminate background noise. So we have apologies from Councillor David Alban. Declarations of interest. Before I ask council, there needs to be a declaration of interest on behalf of the town council itself about planning application 9B, because the town council is hoping to lease that particular depot. So are there any other declarations of interest, pecuniary or non-pecuniary, from members of the council, please? Councillor Woodhead.
11D, the bulk parking, non-pecuniary.
Thank you. Are there any other declarations? No, thank you. I don't have any town mayor's announcements, except to say that if it weren't for the pandemic, we would have had a civic service on Sunday just gone, and that would have been a wonderful opportunity to celebrate all the voluntary work that goes on in the town, and with a lot of the voluntary organisations present. So I'm very sorry that that couldn't take place, but I would just like to say formally at Town Council how much we all appreciate the work that so many voluntary organisations have been doing, particularly in the last year, to support people in Biggleswade. So thank you everybody for that. I'm now on to the public open session. It's up to 15 minutes to allow members of the public to put questions or to address the council pertaining to matters listed on the agenda. Everyone gets a 3-minute slot. So I can now see that we've got 8 attendees. Do any of the attendees wish to speak, please? You'll have to use your electronic hand because I can see your names, but not you. Councillor Caroline Maudlin, please. Caroline, I think you're with us now.
Yeah, hello, Councillor Russell, and so lovely to see you all. I don't think I've seen you all for a long time, so thank you so much for giving me the opportunity just to have a quick word with you all. As on the agenda, you'll see I've put forward a paper for some match funding. So I'm sure, like me, you're very proud of the mosaics across our 3 market towns. And this is the final piece in the jigsaw to put together this mosaic trail map to entice our residents and visitors out around the town and to each other's towns, Sandy, Potton and Biggleswade, to discover probably restaurants, independent shops, other experiences as they get out and about, of which they can drive around, walk around, run around, cycle around between. So that'll be also discovering our wonderful countryside. This trail map I'm hoping to link with Greensand Country and their festival, starting to promote it further and wider afield across the area. And I hope you'll see, in reading through the paper, the benefits that you'll get by contributing towards this, so that I can achieve getting this electronic map for us. And the caveat on the electronic map is that we retain, as the town councils, the ability to be able to change this at any time and not being beholden to any designer that's going to do it. So if there's any additional money to what's used, depending on how much you wish to put forward, that money will be securing either getting the mosaics professionally photographed, which you'll be able to use in any releases or in time as you need it, or put it towards printing costs. So I look forward to your deliberations later, and thank you so much, members. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Maudlin. Does anybody else wish to speak, please? I'm not getting anybody's electronic hand, so I'm going to move on the agenda. We don't have an invited speaker. We're now with members' questions. Do members have questions, please? Councillor Grantfage.
Just one very brief question. Had some correspondence from a member of the public about our tennis courts and basically our council services as we open up. I think the government has a staged approach, and stage 1.5, I think, comes on the 29th of March, when hopefully we'll be able to open our tennis courts again. My question really is just hoping that we're able to get those communications in place and open up our services as the rest of the town does.
Am I able to respond, Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Just to respond to Councillor Fage, you'll be pleased to know that all of this was discussed at the management meeting today. There is now a draft comms all ready to go, and that can be sent after this evening's meeting to all councillors, and you can see the decisions. In particular to the tennis courts, I took the view earlier that after taking some advice from other members, that it would be sensible to open 2 of the 3 tennis courts and leave a gap in the middle. So effectively, we're trying to be, to encourage as many people as we can. But we look forward to opening all of our services more obviously than they are at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members' questions, please? No. Okay, I'm moving on. We've got the minutes of our meeting of the 9th of February. So I'll go through them first for accuracy, please. Anything on page 1? 2. Sorry, I should say that page 2 is page 9 in the agenda set, if you've got them printed off like that. So page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15.
Sorry, I have one on. Sorry, page 14, just on accuracy, item 12, all of it is items for information, not items for consideration. I think it's written down as consideration. It should be for information.
Well spotted. Thank you very much. Anything on page 15 or page 16? So will somebody please move the adoption of the minutes?
Move it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We have the minutes of the Personnel Committee, but I've been told in advance that there is a question about those minutes. And because it's personnel, then we'll need to take that under exempt in the second part of our meeting. So I'm on to matters arising of the council meeting on the 9th of February. So are there any matters arising on page 8? Page 9? Page 10? Page 11? Page 12? Councillor Pullinger.
Yeah, item 10A. So the question that I asked in relation to the cash payments, just wanted to note that I did get a response from Sean, and thank you very much for that. Just confirming that the £140 one was in relation to petty cash for the presents for the Santa's Grotto. And we resolved the issue with the £800 during the meeting itself, which is minuted later on. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Page 13. Page 14.
Yeah.
Councillor Fage.
Yes, so item 12B, the footpaths 30 and 33. We resolved to write to CBC to ask for some assurances that the quality of those footpaths is maintained, certainly once the development is completed. We don't want those footpaths harmed. Did we receive any assurances such as that from CBC when we inquired, or did we get any response on that?
Philip, are you able to confirm?
Yes, we got a response. I think Sean would confirm this to me as well, but it's essentially, yes, they are hoping to restore to at least the same standard as the current paths. And that's all I can say at the moment. I don't know whether the meetings administrator wants to add anything to that, but that's basically the situation.
May I respond, Madam Chair?
Yes, go on.
I would need to just double check that, and I can send that information out to councillors separately by email.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else on page 14? Page 15? Or page 16? Okay, so I can now move on to planning applications. We will take them as arising from the Personnel Committee minutes under exempt. First planning application is 19 Elm Road, 2-storey side extension. Any comments, please, councillors? No?
No objection, subject to neighbours.
Thank you. Item B, we're not going to take. Item C, 9 Saffron Road, proposed loft conversion with rear dormer. Any
No
comments?
objection, subject to neighbours.
Is everybody happy with that? Yes. Item D, 35 London Road, demolition of existing conservatory and garage and construction of ground floor extension. Any comments, please?
Subject to neighbours.
I'm assuming if people aren't waving at me, you're happy with these subject to neighbours decisions.
Yeah.
9 Parry Rise, proposed rear conservatory.
Subject to neighbours again.
Thank you. 9 Walton Grove, park conversion of double garage.
I'm waving.
Yes, councillor Page.
Just to say, there were 2 items on the agenda, and this was one of them, that I couldn't find any documents. They said they were invalid. That was on the CBC website, so I can't find the plans or anything. So personally, I'd like to hold back on that because I don't think I've got all the information that I need.
Okay, so you're proposing that we defer this item because we haven't got the information?
Yes, please.
Will somebody second that? Councillor Pullinger, are you seconding?
Yeah, I'll second that, but also to say we should also in our we should be writing to CBC and asking for the documents, just to be clear.
Okay. You said there were 2. Shall we combine it with this decision? Which was the other one? I think it was
Rowlett Close, 9I.
Yeah, okay. So those documents weren't on the website either?
No, they were invalid or just not available for public use or look at.
Okay, so combining those 2, we want to contact CBC and say that the documents weren't available on the website, so we're deferring the decision. And Councillor Pullinger has added that we want paper copies of those items if they can't provide them on the website.
Thank you.
Are we all happy with that decision? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Item G is 22 Ripon Court, 2-storey and 1st floor rear extension, single-storey side extension to garage. Any comments, please?
None, subject to neighbours. Oh, sorry, Councillor Foster.
Did I see Councillor Strawn put a hand up? No, Councillor Foster, sorry, Councillor Mark Foster.
I would just say that bearing in mind it's a property I lived in before, I'm very well aware of the property. I wish the development had actually happened prior to me actually leaving it, to be honest with you. In terms of the actual plans, I think they're a good set of plans. So essentially, I'm just waffling. We're subject to neighbours on this one.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. Are we all happy with subject to neighbours?
Yeah.
Thank you. Item H, Home Court, London Road, removal of covered lean-to and erection of new warehouse extension. Comments, please. Councillor Foster, you've still got your hand up. Are you wishing to speak again?
No, just technology.
Thank you. Councillor Grant-Fage.
I was going to say, I'd say no subject to neighbours, but I don't think there are any neighbours around there. We could have a look at this. It's the other side of the A1, isn't it? It's a little bit remote. Just one thing to note, though, 2 of the removal of trees items that we have later on the agenda, I'm pretty sure relate to this application as well. So they will be removing 2 pretty large trees to build this warehouse extension, but not sure that's relevant. For me, it's still no objection.
Are we happy with no objection? Yes, wave at me or do something.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then we're on to J, 4 London Road, the advertisement, a flat sign with gold wording on the front elevation. The previously on the agenda doesn't relate to the sign, it relates to other applications for this site. Any comments, please, colleagues?
Move, no objection. Welcome a new business.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So we've lost the mayor.
He's frozen.
Oh no.
Oh,
Oh dear, I've just got a notice up my internet connection is unstable, so I'll say that again. We're on 31 Wensum Grove, single story rear extension. Any comments, please?
None subject to neighbours.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, that finishes the planning applications. So we're on to the accounts. Councillor Ramsey? Would you like?
Yes, I recommend that we accept the balance sheet to 31st of Jan. These are all 31st of Jan. The summary income and expenditure by committee and the income and expenditure by committee and the Lloyds Bank payment listing, please. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Rob.
Okay, all those in favour of adopting the accounts? Yes. Thank you very much. We're on to items for consideration, and the first item is standing orders. Comments, please, colleagues. Councillor Pullinger.
Thank you. Thank you, Philip, for the report and sharing the proposed changes. I know that prior to the meeting, a number of councillors had made some comments around the proposals and around the wider standing orders in terms of a number of other improvements that were felt could be made to them, and which I concur with. And I think that we would be better advised to actually defer this and do a more thorough review of the standing orders as a whole, led by the head of governance and planning when they are appointed. So I'd like to propose that we defer this for that person when appointed to do a thorough review, to essentially renew our standing orders based on the NALC model standing orders, but incorporating the various nuances that exist for Biggleswade Town Council, and to report back with a target of September this year, recruitment permitting.
Okay, so that's effectively deferring for 6 months for the council to discuss it then.
May I come back, Madam Mayor, with some technical advice?
Just a minute. Do I have a seconder for that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Chuppin.
So, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I mean, the reason why it's come in this cycle is that there is a governance requirement that standing orders are reviewed within each municipal year. And I think with Councillor Pullinger's proposal, you will have discharged that, but I think it is important that the minute should indicate that the standing orders, as Councillor Pullinger has indicated, have actually been considered, and they are to remain as they are and deferred until the future. What I would like to say is that, and I do take the point that was made, I also believe that the standing orders do need a more fundamental review, and I would have actually put more items in this, but I felt that there was enough in there for councillors to look at, and the changes that are proposed in the paper are those which are, if you like, the more urgent fundamental ones, some recognising what is actually the current practice anyway, and some which is good practice from other councils. The other matters which I'm aware of, because obviously I know councillors have made some other proposals, could not be taken to this meeting anyway, because proper notice as per the current standing orders had not been given at the previous meeting. So a resolution to defer would seem to be sensible. Perhaps as a suggestion, some form of officer member working group. I know members are not keen on working groups, but I can't see any other way of doing it.
Yeah.
The last thing I would like to say, and this is really a word of caution about the now standing orders, without wishing to criticize them, they are somewhat overwhelming. They are repetitious in places, and not many councils have adopted them as the template, but have used those bits of it, of that document, which are in fact relevant. The format that you have, and I'd like councillors perhaps to take this forward, the actual format that you've got at the moment, I think is far superior. That's a personal view, and I would contribute that if I was involved with a working party, or advise others if I'm not here to actually take that point on board. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Truppin. I think the only thing I would add to what Mr. Truppin has said is that I personally would prefer some sort of informal council meeting that all councillors could attend, because I think standing orders are important, and it's important that everybody has a say. Does anybody else have comments? Mr. Pullinger, sorry, Councillor Pullinger.
So yeah, just to say, I'm obviously happy for the wording of the minute to reflect that we discharge that duty, as Mr. Truppin suggests. And yeah, I did intend to say, and did omit to say, so please reflect that there should be a working group of members involved in this. And I think and what I would, to your point, Madam Mayor, I would suggest it's a working group, but that it is open to any members that wish to be a part of it, rather than have an actual formal meeting. And just rather than making it a meeting as such.
Yeah.
I think we should take on board the comments Mr. Truppin says around whether we use NALC or hours as the starting point, but I think that's a matter for the working group as part of that discussion.
Okay, thank you for that. So we have the proposal on the table to defer with a target of bringing this back to council in September. And we will note that we have considered them, that they will remain as they are until we review them in 6 months' time. All those in favour of that proposal, please. Yeah, I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much. The next one is trees at Home Lodge, which has already been mentioned. Are there any comments on that? No. Councillor Bond.
The only thing I'll say is, looking at the proposal, I accept all of it, apart from the fact is it says to reduce beech tree 237 to ground level. That's the only bit that concerns me. I mean, I have no problems about reducing the trees by X number of meters, to obviously in their size, but to actually reduce the ground level implies to me you're going to actually remove it.
Yes, I think that's what's intended.
Then why doesn't it actually say remove it?
Well, what I've got in front of me says remove. Are we looking at something different?
That's a different tree.
Oh. Okay.
Madam Mayor, in the actual document, so not in the agenda item, it says remove beech tree 237 to ground level in the actual notice.
Okay. Right. So are we objecting on that grounds, or was it saying that?
That's the only part I'm actually unhappy with, because I can't fully understand why they want to actually remove the tree completely.
Okay.
Especially when it has a TPO.
Councillor Ramsey?
Do we have any idea when they're actually going to do this?
No.
I think it was mentioned earlier that it's probably in connection with the planning application.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the plan for the planning application, but I dare say that's what it's about. So what are we doing? Are we objecting to the removal of that tree, or what are we doing? Have I got a proposal from Councillor Bond to object to it? Councillor Bond?
I'm happy to object to remove that tree. The rest of it, I have no problem with.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Ramsey, thank you. All those in favour of objecting to the removal of that tree? Sorry, just a minute. That's 9. Any against? Thank you. The rest must be abstentions. So that's passed with 8 votes. And then we have Home Woods as opposed to Home Lodge. Reduce crown of Copper Beech by 20%. Any comments on that, colleagues? No?
No objection.
Okay, thank you. We then come on to item D, which is about the Central Bedfordshire car park in the Bork. So do I have any comments on this, please? Councillor Grant-Fage?
Yeah, so had a little look at this. I think, you know, in principle, it's fine in terms of the length of stay. That's always for Central Beds to determine. And the resurfacing of that car park, I think, has been welcomed as well. One thing I'm very mindful of is resident parking down the Bulk. It's really under quite a lot of pressure for the number of houses that are down there. And I think we should, in our response to Central Beds, whilst not raising concerns with what they are proposing, perhaps consider asking them to add on top of that the possibility of residents who have a parking permit and live on the Bulk being able to use that car park for residents' purposes as well. I realise it gets a bit of use from Copeland's, a bit of use around school pickup times, but in this instance, I think there's quite a strong case for getting probably more use out of it from residents who genuinely use it all the time. So I'd like to propose that, if possible, please, to write to Central Beds, to write to Central Beds explaining that.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Ramsey. Any more comments from anybody on the Bork car park? Okay, so all those in favour of writing to Central Beds asking for residents with permits to be able to use the car park? 1, 2, 8. That's 10 for. Any against? Okay, so that's passed. So we'll write to Central Beds asking for that permission for permit holders from residents in the Bork. And we're now on to item E, which is the Mosaic Heritage Trail, which Councillor Maudlin was talking to us about, and the request for funding for it. Councillor Bond, please.
Well, I think this is a great project, and I think we should actually, I propose that we actually support this with £250 of match funding. But what I've seen of the documents, can I also suggest that the Town Council is able to contribute to the design of this leaflet with Councillor Maudlin? I'm more than happy to actually propose this £250 and also the Council's participation in trying to get documents as good as possible.
So do I have a seconder for that proposal?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Knight. Any further comments on this? No? So the proposal is to contribute £250 to the Mosaic Heritage Trail and to ask to be involved in the design of the document or file that's being produced. All those in favour, please. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. And we now come on to the neighbourhood plan and the report that details what the strategy group wants to take out to consultation, to public engagement in the next few weeks. You'll have seen that I've written the report. I'm obviously happy to answer questions and taking any comments from people. Councillor Fage.
Thank you for preparing this. So happy to support this based on what's written in front of us. So could you just provide a brief update on what the plan would be around the consultation? Would we be moving relatively swiftly on that? And do we have everything we need to do that in terms of a plan for the consultation? Because one thing I'm certainly very mindful of is when we do, we have to evidence that we have properly consulted with our residents, and we should do that anyway because it's good practice. Wondered whether you could just elaborate just ever so slightly on that, just to provide councillors with a bit of peace of mind that we're going to do it well.
Okay, well, there are two formal consultations for a neighbourhood plan. This is not one of those formal consultations, so we're calling it public engagement, although I recognise I used the wrong word a few minutes ago. The idea is that we should be going out to this engagement by the end of the month. I think you know now that there's the strategy group that meets, but there's also a project group, which is officers, and they've been doing a lot of work on this. There'll be banners produced, there'll be posters produced, there'll be social media stuff on our website. The whole thing is being carried out for us by Bedfordshire Rural Communities Charity. They've actually put the questionnaire together. It'll be a Survey Monkey questionnaire because we're not in a position to have a physical engagement, people coming to the town hall or anything. So what the recommendation is that we have this as the basis of the neighbourhood plan. We want to make sure that residents are happy with what we're proposing to do and whether they've got any suggestions at this point. But we will also be telling them that they need to look out later in the year for the first formal consultation. It's called a Regulation 14 consultation. And that's the one that we do before we submit the plan to Central Bedfordshire, who then take things forward. So we're going to be highlighting that this is a preliminary engagement, but there will be a formal consultation in due course. We're hoping that it will go live at the end of the month, and it'll be between 4 and 5 weeks, I think probably 4.5 weeks, taking into account the Easter period, so that we allow for that. Does that answer your questions, Councillor Fage?
Yes, I think it does. No, that's slightly clearer now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Okay, well, the recommendation is there that public engagement proceeds on the basis as outlined. Could you show if you agree with that, please? That's unanimous. Thank you very much, colleagues. We now have a proposal for a 10-kilometre fun run, and we have immediately after that another proposal for a 10-kilometre fun run. So I'm happy to take discussion about this, but who wants to speak first, please? Councillor Mark Knight.
Yeah, thanks. I'll comment on both if I may. So I'd like to thank Charlie and Gina from Fitness Fights Back and Aidan Jones for writing to the council with these fun run proposals. I think a lot of people are struggling at the moment to get out and be active, and I think running with other people can be a really good source of motivation for people of all abilities, and I'd certainly like to participate, although I'm not sure I could complete 10k running the whole way. I'd like to propose a way forward. I have a number of questions about the details of the events that are proposed, and I think a dedicated Zoom meeting with the organisers, both sets of organisers, would be a logical next step. So I wonder, can this matter be referred to the Town Centre Events Working Group to organise an informal meeting with all parties and the appropriate officers' support to understand what help is needed and to see how these events would fit alongside other events that the council is seeking to organise over the next 12 months. I think the informal meeting would also present an opportunity to discuss the pros and cons of potentially combining these two events into one, or whether they need to be or should be two separate events. So that's my proposal, please.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that proposal? Thank you. Several hands have gone up. Any further comments, colleagues? No? Councillor Ramsey?
Is it anticipated? I mean, Councillor Knight has mentioned having a meeting that is going to incur a deal of costs for the council. Or are they intending, something to ask them whether they're intending to sort out their own traffic control and one thing and another, or if we've got to actually contribute towards it?
Well, I think from what we've seen so far, they're not asking for funding, but they
No.
need some of our help if there's road closures and that. We'd have
Yes, yes.
So it's a time commitment rather than a financial.
And one of them wanted to make it more of a carnival thing as well, didn't they? So there's going to be a lot to talk about, I think.
Yeah, and that's obviously needs our support for use of the market square if that's where it's going to be. Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I think it would be, I agree with all that Mark said, and I think it might be helpful if when that meeting takes place, that the organisers, if they go on to be the organisers, have an indication of our feeling of whether we want to or whether we prefer one. So they're already aware of how we generally feel about this. So what I'm proposing is we have some sort of vote to say, well, this is our preference. Rather than have two events, we would prefer one, or we would prefer two, whatever it is.
I think the trouble is we don't really have enough information yet to know whether, you know, they will work together or what will happen. But I think it seems to me that 2 fun runs within 6 months is probably a bit too much. So there's an issue about whether, from a safety, crowd control and all the rest point of view, you could organise something for as soon as September, particularly with everything else that's going on. Councillor Brown?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. So therefore, it would be nice to give them an indication that we would prefer one and we're happy for them to collaborate.
Well, I think, Councillor Knight, is that what you were suggesting we would be doing with this?
Well, I certainly, thank you. I certainly think that the working group should discuss the pros and cons of combining the two events. And you know, once we have further information about what's proposed, then we can obviously, you know, come to a view on that and then bring that back to council.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so the proposal is to have an informal meeting of all parties under the auspices of the events working group to see how we might take this forward to the best advantage of the town and of everybody.
Exactly.
All those in favour, please. That's unanimous again. Thank you very much. Yes, Langford Neighbourhood Plan. Councillor Ramsey.
Could I just ask yourself or Councillor Knight, who is actually involved in the group for the town centre then? Which councillors do we need to talk to if we've got any ideas?
I don't have the names of the members on that working group to hand. I don't know if any other members or officers do.
It's me, Councillor Knight, Councillor Russell, Councillor Pullinger, and Councillor Woodhead.
Well, you, Councillor Knight, yes.
Councillor Russell, Councillor Pullinger, Councillor Woodhead.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Impressive recall there.
Right, I'm moving on to the next item, which is Langford Neighbourhood Plan. Do I have any comments on Langford Neighbourhood Plan, please? No? Councillor Fage?
No, I've had a brief look at this, not as much time as I'd have liked to have studied the whole thing, but it seems, I think the one thing that we'd be particularly concerned about is any risk of coalescence with Langford, and it looks like they've at least sought to designate green space to their north side, which is our south side, which I think is a very good thing. And I know that we will certainly look to do the same via our neighbourhood plan as well. So depending which route it takes following the engagement, but I can't see any reason to raise concerns with with anything that Langford have in the plan. So we do want to provide a response, perhaps similar to that of Sutton, that we're happy to give our support to what they're doing.
Do I have a seconder for that, please? Yes, thank you very much. Are we all in favour then of thanking Langford really for the coalescence or the lack of coalescence, and it does fit in with what we're trying to do in our neighbourhood plan. Sorry, councillors, I started to take a vote and then went off on one. All those in favour of that response to Langford, please. Thank you very much. Thank you. I've then got another item on the supplementary agenda, which is the proposal to install a zebra crossing in Potton Road. Comments, colleagues, please.
May I?
Sorry, yes, Councillor Knight.
Thank you. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Central Beds and in particular the ward councillors Steve Watkins and Ian Bond for really championing this much needed scheme that I know is really important to the town and the nearby school. I would like to propose that we write to Central Beds in support of this scheme. I know it's been delayed for quite some time. I just have one concern. So I understand that electronic speed reduction signs, you know, the type of sign that flashes if you're driving too fast and encourages you to slow down, were originally promised by Central Beds officers as part of the crossing. And I now can't see any mention of those electronic signs. So in our response, as well as supporting the scheme, can we ask that electronic signage is included within the scheme as originally promised, really to help ensure that vehicles approach the crossing at an appropriate and safe speed? Thank you.
Thank you. If I could add something from the chair, I actually had an email this afternoon from a resident of Nursery Close, and she has emailed before, and they're very keen to have some yellow lines on the junction of Nursery Close and Potton Road. And she says they're needed more than ever now because of the way people wait on the junction for children coming out of Edward Peak School. So I wonder whether we can add to Councillor Knight's proposal that we also ask for the situation to be monitored with a view to possible yellow lines along that junction.
Happy with that.
Thank you. Councillor Fage.
Has this not come up before in an agenda about the yellow lines around Nursery Close and Boddington Gardens, and putting them there because of the people parking to pick up school children? This has been on a previous agenda item, I believe.
I think you're right, but we're being asked to respond to this concrete proposal now, because we discussed the temporary crossings before, didn't we, and discussed some of these issues. So you mentioned Boddington Gardens. Are you saying that the yellow lines need to be on the junction with Stratton Way as well?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the junctions of Stratton Way and Nursery Close. Are you content with that, Councillor Knight?
Yes.
Thank you. And do I have a seconder? Did I ask for a seconder? Yes, I've got seconder. Thank you very much. So are there any other comments on that, please? No? So we write in support of the scheme, but we ask for the electronic speed reduction signs and the yellow lines at the junction of Nursery and Stratton Way. All those in favour, please. Thank you very much. That's passed. Right, we're now on items for information, and we have a report of the planning application outcomes. Are there any comments from colleagues, please? Councillor Fage, Grant Fage.
Just one very briefly. So on Land North, it seems to say that it's open for consultation. It said the same thing last month when we considered the planning application outcomes as well. My understanding is it's not open for consultation again. We'd be aware if it were, and I actually asked Councillor Bond to check this. So if anyone had picked it up, my understanding is that it is not reopened for consultation just yet, but it looks like Councillor Bond has it.
Councillor Bond.
When I checked a couple of days ago, it wasn't open to consultation, so I'm sure we'll get formally notified when it comes back to the table.
Yes, because we are expecting another formal consultation on that application, aren't we? Okay. Anything else on the planning application outcomes, please? No? Okay. Crime statistics. Would Miss Calvert like to introduce them, please?
Good evening, councillors. So this evening I'm presenting the crime statistics report for January 2021. The council would like to continue to thank Amanda Cawthorne from Biggleswade Community Safety Group for her continued support, and any requests or suggestions for alternative graphs to be displayed at a future council meeting would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, comments? Councillor Strawn.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, I think we're now really seeing the benefits of these reports, but there is one point that I think we ought to note. On the analysis that's been completed, the majority of the analysis are saying that the various crimes are significantly down for January 2021 compared with January 2019 and January 2020. And if one looks at previous graphs and some of the graphs showing the criminal activity over the past year, the normal peaks and troughs have not been there, in that when lockdown has ended, various crimes increased quite considerably last year in the summer. And my fear is that although January's figures are good with crime being down, we were, of course, under lockdown. My fear is, and I think we've got to take this into account, and I hope that this could be passed on to the police, is that as soon as lockdown ends, and it's being eased now already, that we will find that crime will increase. This is what the analysis is showing, and I think this is where the analysis is quite useful. I think it's more than coincidence that we've had the decrease in crime in January this year. The other thing is, if crime has gone down in January this year, I would hope that we're actually getting better detection rates, because there's less crime to be found. And I wonder whether we can start looking at the statistics of prosecutions and successful prosecutions in terms of the crimes that have been identified, because it's all very well identifying that we're having crimes more or less, but it'd also be nice to know that some of the criminals are actually being punished for it. Those are my personal observations, and the crime working group will obviously be considering these further, but I think we should note that and not necessarily be complacent because January's crime figures were down.
Thank you, Councillor Strawn. Are there any other comments, please? I wonder if I might ask if Councillor Strawn and Ms Calvert, when you're looking at these figures in more detail, there's obviously a concern over the next 2 or 3 months as we come out of lockdown, but I wonder if after that it would be sufficient to have these detailed figures to council once a quarter rather than monthly. I'm just aware of the amount of time that it's taking to put all of these together, but could please the crime working group just look at that and see whether it's feasible. Otherwise, thank you very much again for the figures. I think we're all very happy with them. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks.
The next item is about Abbotsbury and the end of the consultation. Are there any comments on that, please? I mean, it looks as if the closure will go ahead, but the decision won't be made quite yet. No comments? Councillor Fage?
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say note it, but obviously reminding members that we provided more of a response just than about what Central Beds, you know, are saying in their comments here. You know, we're interested in things like the future of the site, etc. So just something to keep on the radar.
Yes, thank you. Okay, noted. Are we all happy with that? And then we've got the temporary closure of Bridal Way number 52. Are there any comments on that, please?
Note it.
Note it.
Okay, we're noting it. And then the newsletter of the Police and Crime Commissioner. Are there any comments on that? Councillor Grant-Fage.
Yeah, so I think we're always grateful to have these updates from the Police and Crime Commissioner. You know, she doesn't have to go out of her way to put together these kind of correspondence, which she does. Perhaps something we could consider as a council, and I'm saying this now only because I know I'll forget next month. The Police and Crime Commissioner elections are scheduled for the 6th of May and Catherine Holloway is going to be stepping down. I think at some point it would be fitting to put together a response from this council thanking her for her work over 5 years. You know, she's come to speak to us in the past and has done a lot of good work around trying to get Biggleswade station operational again, and has also worked very, very hard increasing police funding for Bedfordshire, which is no small task. So perhaps at some point it would be fitting to write to Catherine Holloway thanking her for her work.
Yes, I believe the council did write to her last year when we thought it was her final year. And when the election was postponed, she did agree to carry on, even though she'd made other plans for this year. So I think it's right that the council should write. Is everybody happy with that? Yeah? Okay, thank you very much. Right, I now have another public open session for members of the public to raise any issues they wish to with the council. Again, 3-minute slots for speakers. Does anybody wish to speak, please? You need to show an electronic hand because we can't see you, members of the public. Vanessa Hallibone, please. Miss Hallibone, you're...
Can you hear me?
Yes, go on.
Yes. Okay, so basically, I just wanted to come on and get some of you guys' support because we're a group of over 100 guys and girls that are finding it really, really, really tricky and difficult to access the grants that are from Bedfordshire Council. And I just wanted to see if we can get some support from our local councillors to help us when it then comes to getting access to the grants and being eligible for the grants from like the new ARG grant.
Okay, this is, I'm not totally familiar with it. Is this support for the pandemic that you're talking about?
Yes, so there's a new grant out. One's called a restart grant, but you have to own a business premises and pay business rates to be able to qualify for that one. There's over 100 people in this group now, and about 70% of us are either mobile, all to do with the beauty and hairdressing industry. And we can't access any of these grants that are out. There's now 11 grants that have been out, and there's quite a number of us that have actually not been able to access the local grants. The last one was the ARG, and they put a huge stipulation on it where if you had the SEISS grant from the government, you then weren't allowed to get your grant from the local authorities, so from CBC. And just because we got...
Speaker?
Sorry?
30 seconds left.
Carry on, Ms. Salibone.
Oh, right. So I just wanted to get some support from you guys to say that we really do need help now. We're really, really desperate. There's people in our group that have had hardly any money, and like myself and a couple of others that have, I was off quite a lot last year and the year before. So my government grant was really, really small, but only because I got that, it was a matter of like just £1,000 for the 3 months, which was £78 a week, which then made me not qualify for the ARG grants. So we wondered if you guys would help us and support us in then helping us to be able to change the criteria that CBC have now put in place. And they are one of the only places that have put that harsh criteria in place. There's lots of places that haven't put that in.
Okay, if I can stop you there, because this is difficult for us to help you with. I mean, from all the nods that I'm seeing from colleagues, people want to support you.
Yeah.
Your best route is through ward councillors, and I wonder whether if you could get in touch with our clerk, and the ward councillors could get in touch with the clerk, Mr. Tarrant, whether we could open some channels of communication and try and find out what's going on, because at the town council we have nothing to do with this, and I appreciate how much research you've done to try and help yourself and your colleagues.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any better ideas than that? Councillor Grant-Fage.
I was going to say perhaps that's the first port of call if indeed some of the constraints are being placed by Central Bedfordshire Council, but actually what Ms Halibone is talking about in some cases are criteria which are set by national government, which are above even Central Bedfordshire, I'm afraid. So in those cases it will have to be Richard Fuller MP.
Yeah, we are in contact with Richard Fuller.
Good.
Okay.
We just wanted some more people and some more help really along the way, some more backing basically.
Colleagues, can I speak for you in saying that we would like to support this group of people to see what they are entitled to from government? Can I have nods if you're in agreement? So, Ms Halibone, you do have the support of town councillors. It's not...
Yes, I spoke to my ward councillor and Richard Fuller.
Okay, well, give your contact details to the clerk and we'll see if we can do anything else to help you. So perhaps, just a moment. Sorry, that was my clock striking and I can't speak above it. Mr. Tarrant, could you just give your email address to Miss Halibone?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, and then if we can make contact, we'll do anything we can to help.
Yes, that would be great, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Whitaker, please.
Thank you. Just to clarify that the government scheme is actually very vague at a national level to allow local councils like Central Beds Council to apply them in a more local way. and therefore they have chosen to apply the rules that they have, such as if you have received Zeiss, you can't therefore apply for the ARD grant. And it's interesting to note that 2 councillors, ward councillors that sit on Biggleswade Town Council, voted against residents such as the one that's spoken this evening actually receiving that extra funding, and made sure that actually that the criteria were as tight as they are. So I think it will be useful if the town council did have its own stance on its opinion on this, because these people do need all of the support that they can get, and at the moment they aren't getting it from their ward councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Whitaker. Well, you'll realise, Councillor Whitaker, that we cannot make a decision as a town council, particularly when something wasn't on the agenda. And if it's not within our remit, then it may be difficult, but we'll look into that. And I note your other comments. Does anybody else wish to speak, please? Okay, I'm not getting any signs from anybody. So we now have some exempt items to discuss. So can I thank everybody for their attendance at the meeting, and